Obviously, Cam Coleman's news yesterday, not a great look. But as far as how it impacts wins and losses in 2026, I have no clue.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. Auburn message board legend, the Charlie Five, also known as Kyle Rush. He's the man over the barn, auburn.com. He hosts the Top Button podcast. Auburn needs to win ASAP, needs to win in 2026. What does that path look like? What needs to happen over the next few weeks? The news yesterday with Cam Coleman, what's the overall impact regarding Alex Golesh? But look, Kyle, you and I were chit-chatting before because there's so many different directions the report of Cam Coleman planning to enter the portal on Friday when it opens. It's so all-encompassing in several different ways because there are things where it's like, yes, clearly Cam Coleman is going to be one of, if not the best players in the portal, assuming he enters. He's one of the best players in college football. He's a tremendous, tremendous talent. And it's easy to take this in a direction where it's negative about Alex Golesh. It's easy to take it into a direction where it's negative about the state of Auburn football. It's easy to take this in a direction that's negative about the state of, just the whole dang sport. And as far as what it looks like, it looks awful. I mean, national people making jokes about Alex Golesh already, even though he hasn't even had the chance to reload and answer yet. And I'm still speechless. I mean, this is what, 5-6 hours after it happened when we're recording this, and it's still just it's such a massive story. And we don't know the next step yet because we have to wait until Friday for Alex Golesh and Auburn to respond.
Well, this is why, Zach, I think, is because everybody that's gone into the portal, I don't even think with necessarily coping. I don't even think it's coping. I think you could have a logical discussion as to why that said person wouldn't work out or like they couldn't make it work. And I think there could be a logical argument. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about from the staff saying, there's a logical explanation or a logical reason why we had to move on from this particular person, or at least say we're only going this far. We're not going to go further as far as, if we're talking finances and money and things like that. Cam's like the first real one where there isn't, in my opinion, a really good argument. And I think a lot of the staff feels shocked by this. Maybe they felt like they were in a better spot than they actually were because it seemed like, at least from the people that we talked to, is that they were willing to do whatever from a money standpoint that they could possibly do to make it work with Cam. Like, he was that valuable. Cam's really the first one where you just don't feel like it's just a huge loss. Like you just lost. There's no good way to spin it. You just lost that one.
Right. And then, does it make you ask questions about Golesh or the staff he's put together? I mean, I think it's a little dramatic to do that, but it's impossible not to, because that's all we have. I pitched a fit about the Jay Crawford thing because it's, money. That one really seemed to come down more to money than I think this one is. I think this one, they are, I'm not saying were, I still think they are willing to pay Cam Coleman whatever is needed for him to stay here, but he doesn't have a relationship with these guys. I mean, this whole process for Cam Coleman virtually starting over. And I mean, you said it, and I kind of like started quoting you, like, Cam Coleman just needs an excuse to stay is what we've been saying. And now I don't know if that's true.
I don't think, I think we just may have, and me in particular, just totally missed that whole situation.
And you're not alone. I mean, I pretty much every Auburn outlet that I follow thought that it was more likely than not that Cam Coleman could return, and he still can, right? Let's do our disclaimer. You can't enter the portal until January 2nd, and just because you do enter the portal doesn't mean you're definitely leaving. You could come back, and Cam Coleman obviously falls into that category.
But look at it from a Cam Coleman perspective, real quick.
Sure.
Look at it from Cam Coleman's perspective is there's no connection whatsoever to the staff, like absolutely none. So in reality, in maybe Cam's mind, I'm already in the port. Like, even though I haven't declared it, like I'm just as much in the portal because I don't have a relationship with this staff. I don't have a relationship with this staff. I don't have a relationship with this staff. So I could go. I'm being re-recruited basically. Like, where do I feel comfortable? Because I could say I feel comfortable at Auburn, but it's a whole new Auburn. It's not the same Auburn it was last year. There's hardly anybody left that you played with. You're more than likely the quarterback's going to be different. There's a lot of differences. So if I'm looking at it from a business perspective, where do I feel the most comfortable next year? If all the money's similar or close, where do I think I can be the most successful? And for whatever reason, at least up until this point, Auburn hasn't been able to convince them that Auburn is the place. There may just be too much scar tissue. There could be a lot of different factors, but for whatever reason, Auburn hasn't convinced Cam yet that Auburn's the place for him to be next year.
Yeah. And is that related to quarterback? I don't feel good about Deuce staying at this point. And I don't know if that's like the worst thing. Like, I really am high on Deuce, but it does seem like this roster is resetting. And I think you do that on offense with an offensive minded coach with his quarterbacks. That's just the philosophy thing. Do I think Auburn can win with Deuce next year? Yes, absolutely. But we'll see how all that plays out.
Resetting. I like that term instead of rebuilding.
Yeah. I mean, it feels more like it's like a forced reset almost at this point.
Rebuilding has negative connotations. So that means we're rebuilding and we're going to be back in 3 or 4 years. And I don't necessarily think it has to be that way. I like resetting better.
Yeah, because you don't have to do it through recruiting. You can just, you're about to have so much money to spend in the portal. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
If they don't get it worked out with Cam, you will have so much money to spend in the portal.
Think about some of the money that's been freed up with, Xavier Chaplin, Cam Coleman. The list goes on. Like
Jackson Arnold, Malcolm Simmons, Malik Blockton.
Yeah.
And then let's think about the guys who are just leaving. Like, I'm sure Kieran Crawford was getting paid well. Keldrick Falk
was getting paid a ton.
Well. Connor Liu.
Yeah.
You have so much to spend.
You got to be on it, though. You got to be ready to go January 2nd. Like, you might need to have commitments January 2nd. Screw tampering. Like, screw the.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see commitments on Friday. Don't you think?
We better.
I tell you what, with some of the hypothetical money that's been offered, if I'm a player, I want that ASAP
now
in writing Friday. Yeah. Have it printed out. I'm gonna enter. I will meet you right after that. Have it all planned, because some of the stuff I'm like, I don't know if I believe all of this that's going on. As far as, potential money has been offered and what's rev share and what's NIL, what's guaranteed and what's not. So we'll see. The overall impact on this as it pertains to Alex Golesh in the roster and his overall plan is fascinating to me, because what happened with him from day one was, this is a guy with a plan. Is this part of the plan? We speculate in just a moment right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. It doesn't matter if it's for college football or college basketball or college baseball that's coming up, or the NBA or the NFL. Game Time has you covered, even for non-sporting events like concerts and comedy shows, the theater. I know some of y'all hate it when I say it that way. You can open up the Game Time app and look at upcoming events that's kind of curated to you based off of your past purchases. And I also love being able to see the view from my seat before buying, especially if it's a venue that I'm not super familiar with. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Kyle Rush hanging out with us on this Charlie Tuesday edition of Locked on Auburn. The thing that impressed me most about Alex Golesh's first and second presser, like this is a dude with a plan, process oriented is what we heard over and over and over again. And part of the plan that was so cleanly and clearly stated was the current guys are the priority. Is that what's happening? And is there a chance we misinterpreted that?
I don't.
Is there a chance he didn't realize how bad some of the deals were? I think if you asked.
I agree. There's been some there's been some proverbial shooting yourself in the foot. I think that Auburn did from John Cohen, number one, talking about the priority was on, retaining the roster. And then Golesh maybe inadvertently, the comment saying they didn't choose me, I chose them. And then the them now is seemingly people are going out of the front door and the back door. You're at what, 27 scholarship guys, I think 28 scholarship guys that are in the portal. And the walk-ons are what they are. So I think that probably all the talk about retention, some of that was us. Some of that was us in the importance. So some of that, as far as us being let down on retention, was us kind of building it up ourselves. But he was
asked about hiring DJ Durkin and how player retention came into that. And he's like, you try to separate that. And maybe that was genuine. Maybe it's like, we really did not consider that at all. But I do think still there were guys that they were willing to pay.
Yeah.
Clearly, Xavier Atkins is one of them. Cam Coleman is one of them. Like, you and I don't think the Cam Coleman thing is about money. That's personally where I'm at with that. I think Auburn was willing to pay whatever because they knew how big that was. And look, his impact's going to be great on and off the field. And then the Deuce Knight one, I genuinely don't know. I've heard some people say that like they're going to do whatever they can to keep Deuce. And then I've heard others where it's like they're still evaluating. So like, I don't know what to do with that information. And I mean, I thought Jay Crawford should be in that discussion because of how impactful he was. And then the other guys that I think make sense from a football standpoint, I think their deals were too bad. Like, or just situationally, like Amaris Williams from a football standpoint would have been crucial for your 2026 roster. Replacing Keldrick, defensive ends are expensive and tough to come by. He's a really, really good player ready to take the next step, but he was in the portal last year. And like, you kind of saw the writing on the wall that him leaving was likely a possibility. And it sounds like that could have been a contract that was a little bit inflated. Malik Blockton, similar thing, like had a big role last year, would have had an even larger role this year, but the contract sounds like it was a little bit inflated. From like a football standpoint, those guys make a ton of sense. Obviously, the other guys we mentioned make sense from a football standpoint, but I think overall impact, and you're going to be able to say you've got guys in the draft and on all of that. But as far as his overall plan, I can't imagine, Kyle, that this has all gone to plan.
Yeah, you probably have some expectation.
He may not have had all the info when he had his plan, right?
Sure. I'm sure you probably had to. You'd be naive to not expect some loss, but I think there's probably some. Maybe didn't realize how bad these deals were, or realize how bad the culture or the transactional nature of these relationships were. Maybe that's something that they didn't quite realize, is maybe some of these relationships were a lot more, tied to money than they were tied to, actual, Auburn and loving Auburn. But then that goes back to the conversations where everyone he's talked to said, I love Auburn. You know what I mean? Like there are some messaging things that seem like, if you take all the context around them, it does seem like maybe things aren't quite going according to plan.
I think
at least at some point.
Yeah, I think he thought he was going to be able to keep more of the roster here.
Sure.
He didn't come out and say it. I'm just guessing. I don't know why you answer a few of those questions that way if that's not the case. And look, I thought that would be the case too, especially with Durkin being retained.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been the case.
Here's one a question I want to ask you, Zach. See how much value you put on this.
Okay.
How much of a pass do you give Golesh at this point in time? That sounds really dramatic, but I mean, it's legitimate on the inability to sell a vision to somebody like a Cam Coleman. Like if all things are equal across the board money-wise, how much do you put on him? Is it the situation? Do you give him a pass because of all of the mess that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years? Like where do you fall there? Because that's a tough one. Because
I don't think we know. I don't think we know. I mean, he's been able everywhere he's been. The school he was at compared to its peers excelled on the recruiting trail.
Right.
And that's selling a vision. Right now, the bulk of that was portal and NIL, but I think those traits carry over. So I don't
put this one off into a bucket, like a special bucket, and say,
yeah, I just don't think we know. I don't think we fully know what that vision is. And also, look, some of this isn't on Golesh, right? This roster was held together by duct tape and was more inflated with deals than we had any idea, right?
Yeah.
And it might have been even more than he knew when he took the job. I just wonder how much of it is these guys are like, okay, this was good. We lost a bunch, but now I need a fresh start. And I didn't commit to this guy. I think some of it's that too. Or, maybe they're being sold a bill of goods to get into the portal and they're going to be able to test the market and see like, oh, wow, I really was getting overpaid. And now I can either go back and take what they offered me if that deal still stands, or I can just, try to get the best offer and, maybe have a place where I feel more comfortable winning that has won more over the last few years. So I don't think it's a selling the vision thing. I think it's a tough situation for him because it's so radically different for these players than it has been for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just sometimes it's when you're talking about recruiting and things like that, it's like, sure, a 3-star can pop. It's not about that 3 stars and maybe not quite the elite talent can't be good. It's why can't you get the good ones? Why can't you get the good ones? So like, I don't know if you're ready to start asking those questions about this scenario. There could be so many other ancillary factors that are working against Golesh in this particular scenario. I was just curious to see your take on, now, hey, the playing field was even as far as money goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so all it was is, hey, I got to convince my best player. I got to convince this guy to come, that I'm the best spot for him to excel the year before he goes into the draft. And then it wasn't able to do it.
Right. And he's had explosive offenses. Get a big critique of his offense is NFL, like the NFL prowess of the guys that he does put into the league.
Yeah.
They get stats, they get production.
True.
But if you're another coach in Cam Coleman's ear, I promise you that was brought up. Like, oh, this year is about getting you drafted. Like, look at his offenses. They've been electric, explosive. But outside of Jalen Hyatt, like, you don't see high picks for him. And like, I mean, Hyatt not in a great NFL situation, but hasn't exactly panned out.
Right. No, it makes total sense. Makes total sense.
I don't know how much I buy that, but like if Hyatt's drafted by the Chiefs, do things change? Like, is that a different thing? Like, I think so. But yeah, we'll see. Auburn needs to win as soon as possible, and there's no excuses for it. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Kyle, you know this. I know this. What you may not know is Fridays already feel different during basketball season. Yes. And FanDuel's making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour with special props and lines every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, a little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Really, really appreciate all of you who have tuned in throughout this crazy year, which is almost over, which is wild. Auburn needs to win right away. And there's no patience. There's no, like, we're going to get this. That's why I think the word reset makes more sense than rebuild.
Yes.
Because the expectation for Golesh and the expectation for the Auburn fan base is we're not waiting to be good anymore. Let's go and win in 2026. And I'm not asking for 10-2, but find a way to go 7 or 8, 7-5, 8-4, and just be competitive and win some of these close games.
Stop the bleeding.
That to me is where you're at. And I think with the skeleton of the roster that remains and the ridiculous amount of money that you have to throw at the portal, there's no excuse for that.
No, I mean, we just how many millions of dollars did we just add up of guys? Like, you're going to have the funds. And here's another cool thing is, like, you can, if you're trying to structure it, like, tier it the way you want to tier it. I mean, what better way to do it than just clean the whole damn thing out and then start from scratch? So yeah, they're going to have the ability to go get players. There's precedent for it at multiple places of being able to go find guys and turn it around quickly. And you're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to do this.
Correct.
And I would say, Auburn needs to win quickly. And I'm going to say Auburn needs a win quickly. Like, Auburn needs a win. And I think not necessarily on the field. Like, I think desperately, and I've been calling for this for weeks, you need to start some type of momentum. I know that we talked about how they don't care. The staff may not care about the headlines, and all this other staff cared about was winning the headlines. Why not both? Why can't we win the headlines and win on the games? I'm not saying go take some kids that don't fit your culture or overpay for some kids that you don't necessarily believe in just to win a headline. But, like, my gracious, man, like, let's get some momentum going. Like, if January 2nd rolls around and there's not dudes popping off, like, as far as adding dudes into this on this roster, you're talking about an S storm, you know what I mean, of negativity.
Yeah, and there's some guys that I'm still kind of waiting. Like, we saw that, was it an Instagram post for Eric Winters? It was like soon or something. He said something. I don't think it was soon, but he hinted at something. It's like, okay, where's that at? Or New Boy or Jared Smith or,
I cannot figure this. I cannot figure this out, Zach. And I don't know. I cannot figure out why this is a thing. The Auburn football roster for 2026 still says no roster found on the auburntigers.com website. So that leads, I mean, that
is
right
a meme
there,
waiting to happen, by the way.
That leads people,
that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that leads people to believe, I mean, you don't have anybody locked in. Like, what if Blake Woodby's locked in? That would fire me up. Throw him on the roster. What if Jeremiah Cobb? Maybe you never even worried about Jeremiah Cobb. Throw him.
Running back room's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, like,
quiet's good.
I think you got to get not only wins on the field, but I think you got to figure out how to do both. And there's not been much of that so far. And I think that's why people are freaking out because you had so many people go in and it doesn't feel – the Xavier Atkins thing was awesome. You don't even have Xavier Atkins on the roster. Like, at least put Xavier Atkins on there. And this little things like that matter. Like, I know that people think they don't, and we can play the big guy. I'm not worried about, being popular, and I don't care about, I just want to win on the field. Like, we can do all that, but, like, there's no reason you can't do both. And I think, if you had you've had some momentum building, kids will make decisions emotionally. Like, they'll jump in just to be a part of something rather than just sitting back and waiting. Now Cam's gone. It's like, well, shoot, man, do I want to be here? Cam's gone now. Do I still want to be here? Do I want to be here? I haven't already locked in. I may have options. I just that's been kind of frustrating a little bit to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overreacting, but
I hope so. But I think everything you said there made sense. So, Kyle, how can people check out everything you've got?
Yeah, go to thebarnauburn.com, sign up today. You can go to the Barn Auburn on YouTube, catch all of our different content pieces we drop every single day there, or go to the Barn Podcast Network, anywhere you get a podcast.
Yep. I do a show there with Brad Law called Village Vice. Come check that out too. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Auburn. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you can get the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Auburn ad-free, plus a members-only Discord access and more. Head to the link in the episode description down below. Doing some fun stuff over there. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.